this mysterious interconnectedness of which Douglas Adams, remember, said everything is interconnected, but some things are more interconnected than others. Jack Sarfati's model is think of the universe as an enormous computer. Then think of our galaxy as a smaller computer within the bigger one, our planet a smaller one within the galaxy, our body is a smaller one, our brain is a smaller one, the cells of the brains are even smaller. You work your way down to the quark level, and you got this mini computers. Below the quark level, presumably, there are even smaller computers. And in all cases, the hardware is localized. The hardware is here, not there, now, not then. I mean, from wherever you are is here and now. So the hardware is always localized, but the software is everywhere at once. It's outside space-time entirely. And this is what comes up in near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, high doses of LSD, almost any dose of ketamine, and profound practice of yoga over a number of years. It's called samadhi, union with everything. And this is where synchronicities come from, and it's why so many people continue to have psychic experiences, even though we are told by authoritative sources that you can't have psychic experiences. They're totally forbidden. They can't happen, and if you claim them, you must be nuts. Still, the majority of people will report at least one psychic experience in their life whenever a poll is taken. Some people have dozens of psychic experiences. And this just comes from the big mind rather than the little mind, the non-local rather than the local level, the software rather than the hardware. Of course, I'm using a lot of modern scientific metaphors for traditional mystical concepts. That's because I find the traditional mystical language just doesn't satisfy my criteria of general semantic accuracy and neuro-linguistic programming of the sane sort. So I have to put it into the best scientific metaphors I can find, because this means that everything I say is potentially refutable. If the government would allow free research, everything I say could be either disproven or made more plausible. Nothing in science is ever proven. That would require an infinite number of experiments. But if you disprove enough theories, the one left standing looks like the only alternative we have until we disprove that one. But nothing is ever proven. What happens is one model seems more plausible than all the others. But in the more advanced sciences now, we frequently have 2 or 3 models. In physics, we got quantum mechanics and general relativity, and they're not convertible one into the other. And within quantum mechanics, we've got 8 schools of interpretation as to what the equations mean, and nobody is quite sure what general relativity means.
So in terms of the human organism, you picture these 8 circuits. Have humans always had these, or are they evolving circuits?
I don't know. The Sufis refer to the higher circuits as the next step. Sufi literature is full of references to the next step. The idea is that we're all evolving into something different. They don't divide it up into 4 circuits, although they do have a chakra system which more or less correlates with the 8 circuits. At least if you're as ingenious as I am, you can make it correlate. Like I've made it correlate with the Gurdjieff system with a great deal of effort and strain, but it does seem to work. As a matter of fact, there are 2 Gurdjieff schools that are using my books in their curriculum, so I'm not distorting Gurdjieff too much and making his system isomorphic to Leary's.
But do you personally feel, or at least suspect, that these are evolving over time?
It seems plausible to me. I think that the first circuit sort of recapitulates amoeboid life. The second circuit recapitulates vertebrate evolution. The third circuit recapitulates human evolution. The fourth circuit recapitulates the process of civilization. And then we got the circuits that are not recapitulating, but pre-capitulating. I think Leary used that word once. It's very good. Pre-capitulating. The neurosomatic circuit is pre-capitulating our experiences when we're living outside of gravity while in free space in space colonies. And the neurogenetic circuit is a forevision of the extreme longevity, if not immortality, that's coming very soon out of all these scientific breakthroughs in genetic engineering. And the metaprogramming circuit precapitulates what Heinlein wrote about in his 2 novelettes, Waldo and Magic Incorporated, which is when parapsychology in spite of all of its critics, proves its case well enough by teaching everybody how to use these powers instead of just waiting for them to happen accidentally. And everybody becomes their own psychic and their own magician, a self-meta programmer, which means a higher intelligence, to say the least of it. And the non-local circuit is preparing us, maybe, for fusion with other intelligences throughout space-time.
So clearly, working with these 8 circuits could give us tremendous powers to control our own destiny. Can't people use the same technology to basically harm others?
Yeah. Well, I think the major struggle going on is the struggle between those who want to program everybody else and those of us who would prefer to be self-programmers and, as far as possible, teach others to be self-programmers too. Because self-programmers are more cheerful and happy, and it's nice living in a happy world. I just found a quote from Herbert Spencer, of all people, that sums this up. I've been trying to say it for years. Herbert Spencer said it better than I ever have. He said, nobody can be perfectly happy until everybody is happy. And that seems so transcendentally obvious to me, but most people don't have a clue yet about that. As you turn on higher and higher circuits and become more and more sensitive to what's going on, you more and more want to release people from the misery. Well, I don't want to sound pretentious about this, but, like the Buddha, when he realized what was going on, he devoted the rest of his life to trying to deliver as many people as possible from the traps they were in and teach techniques that would work. When people think of Buddhism, they think it's a religion like Christianity, but they don't understand that it is in a sense, but in another sense, it's much better to think of it as a series of psychological games to release yourself from your compulsions.
Yeah, Buddha never claimed to be a deity of any kind.
There's one ancient Buddhist scripture in which he's asked directly, are you a god? And he says no. And the next question is, are you a saint? And he says no. And the next question is, well, what are you? And he says, I am awake.
Do you think people use the knowledge you're talking about of the psychological processes to brainwash people, basically?
Yeah, well, here we go back to conspiracy theory. The revelations about MK Ultra, which were brought out by the Church Committee in the Senate back in the late 70s, open up a real can of worms, which is how much of that kind of research is still going on, and of what Church discovered, how much was there that he didn't discover. Church lost in the next election after those hearings.